Hi, and welcome to the Man Myth Podcast. This is episode 14. Let's get engaged, not in a creepy way. Um, so today is a very exciting day, and you'll find out why here in a second. But we're talking about getting engaged in life, getting engaged, not being on autopilot throughout your day, throughout your weeks, throughout your years, and getting the most out of your life. How have things been, Dad?
A lot better, a lot better. Um, the get let's get engaged thing came into me when I was doing last week. I kind of shared some stuff that was a little bit deeper and feeling a little down and a lot of stuff happening. So I did a meditation. I think it was on Sunday, Monday, right in there. This just came to me. It's like, are you engaged? And I thought, well, not really, as much as I could be. So as I went through the process, I found out that because I recently am unemployed in a different way, and I think it just I lost the structure, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But it was funny because as soon as I said something about or texted Bobby and I said let's get engaged, and he's like, I got the perfect person for that, and we want to welcome. Go ahead, Bobby.
Which was the perfect thing for this week. And now we have on the podcast for the first time ever a guest, and her name is Alex Colquitt. And Alex, introduce yourself and tell us what you're about.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me. My name is Alex Colquitt. I am a life and happiness coach. And what I do is really help burnt out high achievers figure out what life work balance looks like. It really goes back to what you said, Bobby. We are on autopilot most of the time, and we have no balance in our lives because we're just going, 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 doing all of the things. And I really help my clients slow down, figure out what's actually going to excite them to get out of bed in the morning, and then take aligned action towards living their happiest, healthiest life. And yeah, getting off autopilot, really figuring out what you want out of life. So that's what I'm all about. And thank you guys for having me.
Well, thank you for showing up. Yeah, this is going to be a
Thanks for being
big
here.
episode of Dad and Alex talking because they're professionals and I'm just here for a little comedic relief and not knowing what's going on. So, but getting to the autopilot thing, which I stole from Alex before we started recording, so don't give me credit for it. Um, that's really what I was doing. I especially between the Navy, getting out of the Navy, and when I started really working on my mental health, I knew I was on autopilot all the time because it was just like a get up, go to school or work, come home, and then do the same thing all over again. Like it was the same, like 5 meals every week. It was the same
hmm
everything. And then um, the good thing about kids is they kind of kick that out the window because you never know what's going to happen next. So that like kind of helps kickstart it. But also then when they start getting older, you get into a rhythm of okay, we have sports this week, this day, this day, this day. We have church, um, we have family gatherings, we have all this stuff. But recently, I mean, I'd say the last 5 years, it's started to be a lot more about what I. It's more important what I need than what my family needs than how much money I make or what job I'm doing. Because I could have made a lot more money when I was working at the company I worked at before now with
hmm
overtime, but I would a lot of times I would turn down overtime to be with the kids to make sure I was at their baseball games and soccer games and stuff, and because that was more important to me than
hmm
an extra few $100s in my paycheck. So that hits home with me in that way. And like Dad said, he's got these two life coaches I have. Why would I have two life coaches on the same show at the same time?
Yeah, it's a
You're not
beautiful
coaching
thing.
me.
um, just to speak on that a little bit, I think it's really interesting because I didn't really ask myself until I was 28 years old, what do I want out of life? Like, what do I want to do? I just think I had my head down for a very long time and I was following this very standard path to success. What you said, like I was striving for a solid paycheck, fighting for a promotion, making more money. And that's actually when I really hit my rock bottom. When I technically, if you look at my career back, I used to work in New York and I achieved that standard definition of success. I had a great job, great salary, blah, 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 living this dream life in New York. And I inside was miserable. My mental health was at an all time low because I prioritized every aspect of my job over my life. And I didn't have this like aha moment until I was like, wait, society has its priorities all fucked up. Like, why do we care so much about making more money to buy more things that we can't necessarily enjoy because we're so wrapped up in focusing on reaching the next milestone, and we're not actually stopping and enjoying the moments that are happening every day and spending time with the people that actually enrich your life. Like my coworkers, who cares, right? Like, sure, I'll make some friends. It's a great relationship, but what matters is spending time with the people you love, your friends, your family, the people that lift you up, give you that real burst of like positive energy, fulfillment, empowerment. You're not going to find that at a job or fighting for money, right?
Right. Especially when you're fighting for money against half the people at your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's also a place where that you can not like be unhappy with your job, but also not, and that's what we talked about it being engaged. Is actually understanding what you do or how important what you do is and bringing
Mm-hmm.
that to your job, which also adds, I think, the mundaneness. Sometimes people get on that the hamster wheel or live inside the box because it's safe. And no matter how far you run on the hamster wheel, you don't have to come, right? So it makes it kind of safe.
Right.
So I know when I was doing the chiropractic work, there was just something in my brain going, there's more to healing people
Mm-hmm.
than just making adjustments. And so slowly it started to really affect, in some cases, how I was dealing with myself, not my clients, because I love my clients and I'd go over backwards. But I think a lot of times it was taking its so much toll on me because there was that jumping out of the box to see what else there was and back and forth instead of just letting the walls of the box go down and do my thing. I think that's one of the things that really brought me into this mindset of saying, there is more. There's the connection with the people. There's the connection with family, and where do you put your priorities? And I think that's part of what we can work with today.
Yeah, and what I've studied a
Positive.
lot of positive psychology. I understand a lot about the science of well-being and what makes us happy. And the most prominent indicator of long-term well-being is the quality of your relationships, which just underscores that happiness comes based on the people around you and like quality of life too, honestly.
I have too many people around me all the time.
You're like, in fact, I could have some of them go away for a little bit.
Um, I mean, we've talked about that before on the podcast. I used to try to be friends with, like, I thought the amount of friends said
Hmm.
more about me than the actual character of the friends. So I would always, like, when I was young, try to have as many friends as possible. I'd change who I was around certain people, and now I think
Yeah.
I have maybe 7 or 8, like, people I consider close friends, and that's a lot.
Hmm.
When you're 30, when you're 35 years old, that's a lot of people to keep track of.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything, the mundane, like Dad said, the mundaneness. My old job, I was doing the same thing for a couple weeks every time, and it would just get monotonous. And now I have a job where I get to go do something different every day, and it's so awesome to be able to, like, get to see different parts of the elevators and get to work on different types of elevators. So it's just been, I mean, it's been 100% better for me making the move. which is funny because the move came from me getting laid off. So it's like
Mhm.
one of those silver linings things.
Yeah, and oftentimes I've learned that when life makes decisions for you, it's often the biggest blessing, right? Because you probably would have just continued to stay in that job on autopilot, just doing what you're doing, right? But giving yourself that space to step back and reflect and say, what do I want to do next? What am I looking for? And actually ask yourself that question is a very powerful opportunity, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it worked out way better than I could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I
I
think
think
that's
what
an
you
important
said,
one of the
yeah,
important
go ahead, Rob, Dad.
go, that's one of the important things I think that and I'm really proud of Bobby for this is how he's changed his relationship with himself.
Yeah.
And when we talk about relationships and how important they are, that's one of them that's majorly well. I think, in my opinion, especially when I deal with people in the sessions that I deal with, I have to get them to that relationship with themselves so that they honor themselves versus everybody else.
Yeah, I am unapologetically me now, which I tell people when I meet them. I'm weird, and if you're either gonna like me or you're not, either one's fine with me. I do not care either
Yeah.
way. If you like me, cool. I probably won't like you. So,
Great. And less people you need to keep track of then, right?
well, I mean, it's not even just less people. I just feel like the less people, and not even less people, but people have to earn that now. They have to earn
Yeah.
my relationship. I don't just automatically be like, "Oh yeah, you're my friend," and then deal with all the bullshit and drama that they have and have to worry about them not caring about mine. That's like the biggest thing that bothers me about everything is you try to be close to somebody and then they just are like, "Yeah, whatever," and don't even care.
Yeah. It's not mutual.
They don't engage back.
They don't engage back, which you don't want. And I feel like, I don't know at what point you had that turning point, Bobby, but I had a very similar turning point. And I think it's when I decided to pursue entrepreneurship because I actually stepped into my authentic self. Because again, it was the first time I asked myself, what do I want? I was like, I don't want to be in corporate. I don't want to be in New York. I don't want to be in this relationship. I don't want to be living in this apartment, all the things, right? But I was like, what do I want? Right. And that was like the first time I was off autopilot being like, all right, I have to heal the relationship with myself because I don't like who I am right now. Mentally, physically, emotionally, this is not it. And so starting to lean into my authentic self and actually find my power is what now has attracted the most amazing relationships in my life because I'm unapologetically myself. And that brings in people who align with that energy versus me shape shifting and trying to like fit into these groups to be considered like cool or like whatever you want to call it, right? And be accepted by everybody. But now other people's opinions of me is none of my business. If you don't like me, fine. If you love me,
Oh,
amazing. It
for
probably means I'm
sure.
going to love you right back because I'm unapologetically myself. And I think that happened like at 30ish. Like I really do think like late 20s, early 30s is when I had that realization. And it's brought such amazing, beautiful friendships and relationships into my life, which means a lot of my old friends needed to go, right? They were out of alignment with who I was. And that's
Right.
perfectly okay. And I think it's really hard to lose friends. I think there's a really like weird picture of what friendships should look like through the media and through movies, and you meet a friend when you're 2 and you're friends with them forever, and I'm not saying that that can't happen, but I think as you get older you really start to figure out who you are, and in that case it helps bring in and helps you engage with people that are actually in alignment with who you are and where you're going in life.
Yeah, it happened about the same time. It was around the time Hadley was born, so it was around the time I turned 30. That's when I started realizing, and it's like you said, it's like a crazy thing because you like growing up, you see all these like TV shows and movies where these kids have been friends since they were in fourth grade, and now they
Yeah.
are next door neighbors and they never move. It's like you're like that's not how life is. Like life is,
Not at all.
and like sometimes you have to cut people loose. You can't hold on to everybody, and it might suck at the time, but then I've had people where I cut them out, and I'm like, holy crap! Like
Hmm.
that's a weight off my shoulders. Like you can physically, like when they tell you like when you're meditating and everything, like to relax your shoulders and like
Yeah.
that's like sometimes it feels like that cut like after you realize that that person is no longer in your life, and that's why you have this like calm come over you. It's just ridiculous that a relationship could do that to you.
Yeah. It's very interesting because I want to say maybe 2, 3 weeks ago, went through this friend breakup, and it doesn't sound as dramatic as a breakup, right? I was trying to create space because I was really feeling anxiety when we were making plans. I was feeling obligated to go hang out with this person. And I was like, why am I doing this? I was like, what am I have so many positive relationships in my life that I never feel anxious about. I'm excited to hang out with them. I want to put plans on the calendar. Why am I forcing myself to stay friends with this person when it is not in alignment with who I am and where I'm going and how I'm feeling? Right. So I tried to organically create space, right? It's not like you have to go up to the person to be like, you're out of alignment. We can't be friends anymore, right? It like does not have to be that dramatic thing, right? You can just stop reaching out so much, take some space, say you're busy if they ask to hang out, right?
Right.
But it just got to the point where she was like, I feel like you're avoiding me. And I was like, all right, I'm going to cut the shit. Like, I was like, I'm super busy. Some things have happened that I need to process. I'm focusing on myself right now. I need some space, right?
Right.
And
Oh, it's
communicating that and just being like, okay, and I felt relief. I was like, oh God, thank God, It's like that's off my chest. And that is an indication, right? Like if you feel relief, that is a good sign that that person was not right and you stood up for yourself and set that boundary. And that's a
oh for
beautiful
sure.
thing.
For sure. It's hard though. Like you said, it might not sound as dramatic, but sometimes I think it can almost be harder because sometimes friends have been around longer than you've been in the relationship that you're in. So sometimes it's really hard to be like that to disappoint that person.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to be selfish and think about what's best for you. You can't be thinking about everybody else
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up the word disappointment because and this was a big piece of advice from my therapist. She was like, disappointment is a part of life. It is inevitably going to happen. So you're better off disappointing somebody else than continuing to disappoint yourself because you have to live with yourself. You have to live with your decisions. And every time you disappoint yourself, you lose respect for yourself. And that's where your self worth takes a hit, your self esteem takes a hit, and then you start to feel really shitty. So you've got to stand up for yourself. It might feel selfish, but it's really not. You're standing up for yourself and what you need, and that's okay.
Dad,
And
you're
I think
awful
part of
quiet.
that is when you're talking about the alignment of the person, it's not really, i- and I'll just throw this out there. It's not really them that are out of alignment. They're still in alignment with what they're doing. It's us that get out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And um, some of the people that I work with and I talk to them about because they think that they've moved up in their level of awakeness or whatever it is. And I said, it doesn't, in the awakeness, it isn't the level of up, it's the level of expansion. So the expansion means your self understanding, it continues to increase. In these
Mm-hmm.
little places where we've lied to ourselves, trying to fit in, changed who we are, which are the little lies. When we get in with that person that we used to lie about, that vibration isn't aligned with what we're doing now. So if we're talking about, you know, letting go of friends or people that are no longer really friends or maybe never were friends, they were just people that were in our lives that were solid, sometimes or very unsolid. That process doesn't have to be like we're growing above them. And I think that's one of the things that I work with people is just more of an expansion. You have more availability for yourself and less availability for the distractions that those people held or the lies that we had to tell ourselves to be with those people.
I love that concept of expansion versus like leveling up, because I feel like a lot of times people are like, "Oh, I'm like better than you now." And you're so right. That's not the case. It's just you've expanded your capability for yourself, and maybe that person no longer fits into that or serves that. So I like the way you explain that. I'm going to steal that with my clients.
I'm making connections all over.
But that's when we talk and always get tickled when people are like, I just woke up or I'm awake, which in essence means the other person is not.
Yeah.
Right. So we're like, it's a division. We don't want it to be a division. We want the availability of the space to be there for whoever it is that needs it. So when people say, I'm woke, and I'm like, what time in the morning do you awoke? Because the rest of it just levels us. It levels us up, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm awake, I'm awoke, and it's like, dude, if you're saying that, you're probably not in many ways. So
I was literally just going to say how
a
woke I
softening
was.
Don't you dare. It means you don't. You're not.
Oh, I am sleeping. I haven't learned enough yet in life to be woke. I'm just happy to be on the bed.
It's just not roll out of it yet. Outside the crib.
No, the funny thing, I did roll off the couch the other day when I was taking a nap.
Did that happen?
When?
I bet you were woke then.
No, how?
I don't know. I tried to get up off the couch and my whole body just went and I fell on the floor.
Not today, Satan.
I fall more times than I could care to admit, to tell you the truth. Which is not a good thing for someone who works on elevators. So
no. Just off the couch. That's the only one you have.
It's a short couch too, so we're good. And this is how Bobby derails a podcast.
That's engaging. That's engaging with the floor.
I mean, we can move
with the floor.
I'm engaged with the floor. I live here now. I'm actually sitting on the floor right now, so I relate to this.
I live here now.
You are engaged too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going back to what you were saying, Dad Rob, about just like learning and expanding. I truly do believe that people come in and out of your life for specific lessons to teach you, to support you in different areas and times of your life. So maybe they're not a lifelong friend, but maybe that person was there to help get you through something hard or to give you perspective on something that you might not have seen had that person not opened your eyes to it. Right. So I think there is a blessing in meeting people and having them come in and out of your life as you are on your own journey. And I don't think that's a selfish thing. I think that's a very natural thing. And I think it really helps you live up to your full potential. And at the end of the day, and really reach your maximum expansiveness and awareness of yourself.
I had a lot of people come into my life to show me what a piece of shit looks like.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Or a jackass.
Like a keychain.
Yeah. A nice reminder of
that. You can't do inside jokes on the podcast.
I feel like you have to tell me now.
So I've got to tell everybody. I have a keychain from my grandfather, my papa, which I'm pretty sure it's deer, right, Dad?
No, it's horse.
Goat. It's horse. That's a little anyway.
Horse.
A piece of horse poop that was, I guess, put an epoxy or something, and then he put a keychain on it, just a little piece of poop.
He epoxied it.
It's actual
So
poop.
Yeah, do you want to
It
see
is.
it?
Kinda.
He gave
All right,
it.
you guys talk.
He gave it. He gave it to me because he said, "What do you give a guy that has everything?" And he hands me. Then I open it up, and it's a piece of horse poop that he'd actually molded with his hands and dipped in epoxy, put on a keychain. So I gave it because Bobby and we called him Papa. We're so close that I gave it to him, and I said, "This is, it's just one of those things that it is Papa. It's completely Papa." There it is.
Oh my god, look at that. Where did he get
Yep.
horse poop to dip in epoxy?
From one of his horses.
We had horses at one time.
There
Did
you
you hear
go.
what I said about how
No,
he gave it to me, Bobby? Did you remember?
no, I do not remember. I just
He
remember
gave it
you
to me
having
for Christmas. He said, "This is a gift for a guy that has everything."
it.
And
It's
I opened it up
horseshit.
and I said,
You
"Now
get
I
some
may
horse
have
poop.
everything." But that's just, that's complete Papa.
And then he went. He would always rub his bald head when he laughed really hard.
I love it. I can't believe you still have it.
Like, which
I'll always have that. I'll never get rid of that. I'll re-epoxy it before I get rid of it.
on the what you were talking about, Alex, with people that coming in and out of your life. I think it makes it easier to let those people go if we know that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, some of the other work I was doing, I do Akashic Records, and one of the things that they brought up to me is the villain in your life, the villains that you've contracted in your life to come into your life and make it miserable or make it, it's actually something in our path that we bring into it to see how we deal with it and have those distractions or those ups and downs. And if we can see it as that, and I don't know if you guys have ever read Castaneda, but some of his stuff is, but he talks about his teacher Don Juan was actually brings these people into his life that brings so much chaos that it almost drives him crazy, because that's part of the stress that we need, the mental stress, to actually overcome the lesser stresses in our lives. So it makes us it makes us more fluid in our mental state, I would say. But it was pretty cool to just bring that in, and it's like, then you can go back in your life and say, man, who are some of the villains that I brought in, and thanking them for doing their job, right? Because the worst villain is the best doing their job. Is what you've in essence contracted them with.
Yeah, well, some of them need to do a little less good job. Do a little worse job. That's a little more like the Joker instead of just being like Bane.
If we go back into being engaged, if it was the less, we wouldn't be engaged in that process as much.
That's why I
Something
said
that
so you
really
could make
happens
that
or
point.
comes into your life. Thanks. You're just feeding it to us, aren't you, today?
Well, look at look.
But we wouldn't be engaged. It'd be the inside of the box thing. So the intensity of some of the things that happen in our life, the more we can engage. But I'd like Alex to go over a few things about just like day-to-day engagement or lack of engagement that she sees.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think our cell phones are the number one victim in keeping us disengaged in life. I think that is probably, it's hard in a society that relies so much on technology. And I wear an Apple Watch, and when I don't wear it, I'll get like phantom buzzes on my wrist. Because you feel like someone's always trying to get a hold of you. And I think that that causes you so much disengagement from the present moment and what you're doing, whether you're with yourself or with somebody else. And I value quality time so much. So when I'm with my friends, my phone is on do not disturb. I didn't always used to be this way. I had to train myself, because it's hard, right? To stop looking at your phone, put that down, and focus on what's happening in the present moment. But if you're like half into something, half looking at your phone, you're 100% out of both of those things because you're not giving your full attention to anything. And therefore, you cannot actually be engaged in what you're doing in either one of those areas. So I think the biggest struggle we all have is with our cell phones or any type of digital device where you're constantly like stimulated by something. Like I think about I never sit with myself anymore, right? My AirPods are in, I'm listening to something. On my lunch break, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm watching a TV show. I'm going to bed, I have a sound machine on, I have like a meditation going. Like I'm never sitting in silence and like fully present in the moment. So I think recognizing that there are so many distractions from technology and being mindful of those distractions will help you disengage from the distraction and help you be more present and mindful in the moment so that the time you are either spending with yourself or spending with other people is genuine quality time and allows you to actually build a deep connection with somebody. Because you can't build a connection with somebody if you're like half listening to them. You're not actually hearing what they're saying. You're not actually building a memory or having an experience with them if you're like half playing a game, half on your phone, right? So I think that's probably the biggest culprit when it comes to being disengaged and being able to become aware of it, right? That's the first step in solving any problem is just bringing awareness to your screen time, bringing awareness to how many times you're picking up your phone, bringing awareness to how much you're not paying attention to your friend you're at dinner with because you're texting somebody else about tomorrow's plans. That's where like that autopilot kind of kicks in, where you're just kind of going through the motions. So awareness is number one. And then number two is making a conscious effort to shut those things out. So like I was saying, I put my phone on do not disturb mode if I'm hanging out with people, because this sense of urgency that this world has created is false. Like somebody, if you don't text somebody back in 10 minutes, they're going to survive. Like they will be okay. You don't need to be at the beck and call of your phone. And I think, like I said, that's the biggest culprit. And so if we can learn to shut that out and actually pay attention and listen to what people are saying, actively engage in a conversation, get to know somebody on a deeper level, that's where those bonds happen. That's where you feel like you know someone, you trust them, you love them, you feel like they're there for you. And that can't happen if you're half in, half out because of technology.
That's very true.
That's
And I see it all the time. Oh, sorry, Dad.
but it's also what we, and as a different like generation, I don't have that as much, but I see people in Alex, the way you were talking about it, as the other people in your life, but also for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, because I got cracked up the other day. Somebody came into me and I was like, "Why are you wearing the Apple Watch all the time?" He says, "Well, it really helps me because I know how I sleep." And I'm like, "When you wake up, you know how you slept. If you're tired, you didn't sleep well." But we disengage from ourselves because we have all of this technology telling us what we're doing, right? I got to know how I slept. I had, we have so much knowledge that we absolutely, a lot of people don't understand, right? How much REM sleep, how much, theta, delta, all the waves and everything. They're like, yeah, but what does that mean? Well, I have to look at my manual, right? To see to see if it was good or not. Like, no, just take that off, sleep without it, and wake up. Because, the EMRs and everything like that that's a whole different story about how it affects you. But we are in a society, and the younger generation has to have that stimulation. Like when the grandkids have to have the sound machine or the lights and everything like that on. When I slept, it was completely dark. We didn't have. We had birds and crickets and tree frogs, which is what I have here. So that's my sound machine.
That was when they were doing the cave paintings on the wall.
Yeah.
They just had a hole for a door.
In France, the Flintstones.
He woke up and he had to go hunt down a mastodon. So.
Just to survive.
Uphill.
But yeah, I loved when you talked about that. the relationship with other people, then the only thing I kept hearing was, what about, and the relationship with others. Because I found the button on my phone that turns notifications on
Mm-hmm.
accidentally. That did not last very long. I was like, what happened? My phone just started beeping because I look at my text maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and that's it. And people are like, "Where's your phone? Where's your phone?" I'm like, "It's in my truck, or it's." But yeah, I cannot do
He's
the
not lying
notification
either.
thing.
He's not
See,
lying. Like,
I wish I could be that way. I feel like I'm naked if I don't have my phone attached to my hip, and I hate that. I hate that so
you need to
much.
go to Dad's house. Dad, she needs to come down to your place.
Yeah.
Put her up in one of.
Oh,
He has
no.
2 1-bedroom apartments in his place. Go down,
All
spend 53 acres. Spend a weekend down there, and you will not need your cell phone.
Yeah, I don't want my cell phone.
My kids don't get, like, we're not on tablets. We watched 1 movie a day, I think. That was like we were like at night family time before they went to bed. But his place is like the best place, and it's just because it's a lot of nature, but disconnect from everything. But I see
Yeah.
people, parents at like soccer games and baseball games, they watch the game through their phone because they want to get every little thing on recording. And yeah, I'll take some pictures or I'll record a video every once in a while, but I want to be like watching the game
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, well, first of all, most of the parents are recording, so I'll see it somewhere. They'll post
Yeah.
it to Facebook or Instagram or something. But it's just more fun for me to be like in the game, watching, being able to cheer for him instead of having to worry if I'm going to drop my phone. But I see that like that's a big thing with parents or even like kids. They'll be like, "Hey, can I have a play date?" And then they're both sitting on their tablets or they're like watching YouTube videos. I'm like, "Come on,
Yeah.
guys."
Yeah. I found myself doing a very similar thing with I love live music. I love going to concerts. I love seeing artists that I love. And at one point I was like, I'm recording a lot of the songs because I love them, right? I'm like there, I'm in the moment. And then I don't think I've ever watched a single one of those videos. And now I spent the entire concert recording the concert and getting footage I'm never going to look at again. And I didn't actually enjoy that moment or like build a bond with whoever I'm at that concert with, right?
Right.
I'm too busy focused on capturing it. Instead, why don't I focus on capturing it in my mind, being engaged in that moment, building a bond with my friend,
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
you know? And I would love to know how
I
many
think
people rewatch concert videos. 0% would be my guess.
that's part of not being in the present. You're
Yeah.
recording that for late. I'm gonna watch this later in the future because I won't remember exactly now because I'm fiddling. See, the technology now, it'd take me half the concert to figure out how to record it. So it would just get frustrated and put it down.
Dad would get home and it'd just be a video of himself watching the concert
Of
through his
myself.
phone.
Who doesn't want that footage?
See, I would probably look at that. No, I wouldn't.
Oh my goodness, this has been a good one.
I mean, it is. It's the engagement thing, engaging with yourself and finding out who you are. And I think it's going to take, like you guys said, at 30, it's going to take longer and longer for people to actually do that as soon as they, whatever it is, the distractions are.
Mm-hmm.
And the distractions, I mean, everybody wants to be a millionaire now, and everybody's, I mean, it's ice baths and dopamine right now is the big thing on all the podcasts, but what gets us to the point where we can just be quiet for a few minutes and say, hey, I like this guy. He's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know what you're offering to the public, or to your friends.
I don't know what a mean is, but I would never want to dope one.
I think you tried at least once.
Oh,
Boom.
Rob Dad calling you out.
Oh, yeah. Everybody who has ever knew me in high school They knew.
Good.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Alex, for coming. We really appreciate you having. We'll have to have you on
It's
again.
been a pleasure.
sometime.
Yeah, I've loved this conversation. Thank you guys for having me again. I appreciate it.
So let's do it. Let's let Alex do a call to action. We do a call to action. I'll go first so that you have a moment to.
Yeah.
not
Why
to
would
just
you
put
put her
spot.
on the spot like that?
So
I can be
I was
put
just
on the
giving
spot,
her.
but Rob Dad can go first so I get an example.
So the call to action for me is engage in these podcasts. Listen to the not only the words but the energy that's being exchanged between the three of us. Actually feel what we're saying, not like taking notes or just doing, cleaning the closet while you're doing this. Just sit down and engage with yourself and give yourself the permission to actually listen to what's going on and then to see how it relates to your life, relate it back to you. And I think that's my call to action.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then I'll say, since that is more internal, I'll say from an external perspective, the next time you're hanging out with your friends, ask yourself when you leave them how you feel. Do you feel energized? Do you feel good? Do you want to make plans again? Or do you feel depleted, unsupported, kind of icky after being around them? And I think that'll be your true barometer for if those people are adding to your life or taking away from it and what your next step will be as far as dealing with that relationship.
Okay, mine's going to be kind of a counterintuitive, but put your cell phone down after you finish the podcast. But then after that, put it down. Listen to the whole thing, then put it down.
Listen to the whole.
But just spend time with your loved ones. I feel I know I'm terrible with it, and this is one I'm going to have to do. But a lot of times I'll come home from work and I'm like worn out. I'm exhausted. I have 2 dogs on top of me. I have 3 kids on top of me. I have all this stuff going on, and sometimes I just like find myself escaping back into my phone. But I need to be more. I need to stop that, and I need to just put my phone down and just be in the moment, be there, be present, be mindful of them and what I could be doing to help them in that moment. So that's mine.
Beautiful.
I think it'd be
And
funny
remember,
to have somebody.
Oh, what?
Wait a minute.
Oh gosh.
I'm feeling alone here. What would be funny is to have a family get together, like a birthday, even if it's not anybody's birthday, just have a family get together and not record it. Just be really present as they're blowing out the candles, as they're making the conversation, as they're doing the stuff. So have a faux birthday party and engage in it and see how much better you feel. So, Bobby.
Dad had to do 2. So just remember, you're not broken and you're not alone.